In the 70s and 80s, I was very active in the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Santa Maria Post. I was the post commander, and I was organizing our Memorial Day parades every year. So when the parade committee knew about that, they knew I was doing this during that time, and they decided we better have him on our committee. And so after a couple of years that they started the parade, I was part of that committee, and I served as secretary for 4 or 5 years, and since 1988, I've been chairman of that committee and promoting the parades. And I think it's important for us to preserve the memory of what these men and women did to preserve our freedoms. And I think this parade is so important to carry on the history of Raritan and to instruct these young people about what our country is all about. So, you know, that's my story. I was active in the town. I was on the Recreation Commission for over 30 years and chairman for 10 years. And I was involved with the Little League and coaching and umpiring and playing and so on. So I was active in the community. I've always promoted what the activities are in this community. And so it was only natural for me to continue honoring veterans, which I was doing practically every year. Every Memorial Day, I was either the MC or the main speaker at those parades. And we had a lot of veterans come out. So this parade was an opportunity to continue honoring our veterans, and we've been doing it ever since.
I think that's fabulous. I think the fact, I'm sure that my uncle would be really proud to know that. I mean, it's in his name, but he also was like you speak. He always felt that his Medal of Honor belonged to all the men, and the fact that you are recognizing all the veterans, it's just a wonderful idea. I
never knew your Uncle John personally, but I did know Carlo very well, and he was a good friend of mine. I knew who John was. I knew the Basilone family. The father was a tailor, and my uncle was a tailor. And both had tailor shops in Raritan, and they were friends, and we were friends. But Carlo married my best friend's sister, and so I would go to the family gatherings of his wife, and I met Carlo there, and we became very, very good friends. And later on, Carlo was on our committee and helped me a lot in promoting the parade celebration that we have. So Carlo, I knew very well. John, I knew about him. I knew who he was, but I didn't know him. The first parade in town in 1943, in September 19, on that day, I was 16 years old. And I remember that parade very well. And I remember all the people in town. So, yes, I knew the Basilone family, but I didn't know John personally, but Carlo was a good friend of mine.
Well, I'm sure you know about him. I'm sure you've felt him over the years because you're doing something.
John Basilone, in my opinion, was so unique in our history. I mean, in my opinion and in the opinion of many others, he turned the tide of the war in the Pacific. You know, he, at Henderson Field, I mean, his Medal of Honor citation states, in part, that he contributed virtually to the annihilation of a Japanese regiment. He's the only person that we know of who received Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross. But not only that, he went back after receiving the Medal of Honor, went back to battle and single-handedly knocked out that blockhouse at Iwo Jima. I mean, this is a person, he's been described by General MacArthur, Douglas MacArthur, commander of the War in the Pacific, who said he was a one-man army. And Herbeck, in his book, The Marine, said he said Churchill and Roosevelt had years to change history. Basilone did it in 3 days.